Hello again. It's time for another episode of Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth, and we are an emotional journey podcast where we watch movies and then we talk about them and talk about our feelings. This week, what are we talking about?
So, we did The Lost Boys, we did The Shining, and those were, Lost Boys wasn't as much of a heavy hitter, but The Shining kind of was an emotional
roller coaster.
Oh, your Lord.
But it
was good.
It was an emotional roller coaster that mostly went down at a disturbing angle.
Very, very fast.
So
we went for a little bit lighter.
I mean, the thing I loved the most was talking to Polly.
No, that was a lot of fun.
Polly is amazing. Buy her books. I'm going to put the link in the show notes because we love Polly.
I love it when we get to have a guest, and we have one coming in the future that we were already kind of plotting, but that one's going to be a bit. But yeah, I like having guests. I like having
Spielberg.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. No.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
No.
Not unless he gets brain damage or forgets where he is.
No.
That would be amazing if he came through the door and he's like, I don't know. I don't remember who I am. And we're like, you're Steven
Spielberg, and we're going to do a podcast. Sit your butt down.
Right. And we just start, and he doesn't even remember his own movies.
Yeah. I'd have to do one of his not weirder, but more obscure movies that not many people remember that he did it. So this week, we are visiting The Legend of Ron Burgundy, the Anchorman.
Is it Anchorman?
It's called Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. I was taking artistic license and saying it my way.
I see. You think you know better than the production staff. Oh, okay.
Yep, flipping the bird.
Just gave me the finger.
So this movie was in 2004, and it was produced by Adam McKay. It was written by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay. And
what else has Adam McKay done?
I don't know. I didn't look that far into it.
Oh, okay.
So maybe you did?
No, not at all. That's why I was asking. I wasn't being facetious.
Oh, well, we should probably clip this part too.
Oh my God. Have we prepared at all? Has anything been done? Did you even watch the movie? I've never seen this movie.
I was there when it happened.
Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy is a 2004 American satirical comedy film directed by Adam McKay in his directorial debut. Produced by Judd Apatow, starring Will Ferrell and Christina Applegate, and written by McKay and Ferrell. The first installment in the Anchorman series. The film is a tongue-in-cheek take on the culture of the 1970s, particularly the new action news format. It portrays a San Diego television station where Ferrell's title character clashes with his new female counterpart. And that's where we're at with that. It only took me 24 takes to get to this point because apparently reading this from the Wikipedia is more than I can manage.
So Adam McKay, he has also directed Talladega Nights, Anchorman, Afternoon Delight. He did the short, The Landlord. And I don't know if you've ever seen the short, The Landlord. It is with Will Ferrell, and it's with the little, I don't know if it's their kid, one of their little children is the landlady, and he's at the door just screaming at them in baby talk. It's funny as hell. I recommend it. It is so funny. Step Brothers.
Is this a laugh or not or something?
It's not. I don't know. It's just one of those little shorts, one of those, Will Ferrell things. So Adam McKay and Will wrote this as part of the quote-unquote mediocre man trilogy. Oh, sorry, mediocre American man trilogy.
There we go. Let's get specific.
Very specific. And this was the first movie in that trilogy. It is followed by Talladega Nights and Anchorman 2. So it's just, they were going for these, I guess, quote-unquote I would not consider the, a NASCAR race car driver to be a mediocre American man, but I guess...
No, he was. His character specifically was pretty mediocre.
Bobby Ricky?
I don't know. I watched it once.
Me too, and I don't remember enough about it. So tell me, how did you feel?
Oh, the first time I watched it?
Yes.
It actually has changed for me quite a bit. Mm-hmm. One of the things, and this is going to keep popping up every time we talk about something like this, is, I came out. Mm-hmm. Coming out has a lot of changes for you. And one of those is you change your paradigm. Really what you do is you allow yourself to understand your own paradigm rather than installing a false one onto you. So I spent a whole lot of time trying to act as manly as everyone wanted me to act, which is probably bad for everyone, including me. And when this came out, it was just like Talladega Nights or any of the other ones. Mm-hmm. I was very much, screw her, and this was funny or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you feel bad for Ron Burgundy and, everything else. It was funny. I laughed, but I laughed for what I feel were probably all the wrong reasons, except for when Steve Carell is making his jokes, which are so innocent. Are
so
innocently crazy.
They are. They're so off the wall. And that's what makes them the funniest.
Right, because it undercuts all of the sexist humor that's in it. Now, all of this is designed to be satirical. Yes. It's all designed to undercut the privilege of men. Yes.
And so let me do my feelings really quick, and then I have a little bit to talk about this before we go into the movie. I did not have many expectations when I first saw it. I think I remember seeing trailers for it, but I don't remember I don't even remember when I saw it for the first time. 2004. I'm trying to think of where the heck I was mentally, but I do remember I thought it was funny. I did think it was funny. I did see the sexism in the movie even then, but I saw the way it backfired on them. And I saw that that's what the jokes were. While they were very pointedly sexist, it was based on a time period, and every one of them blew up. All of their antagonism towards Veronica, Christina Applegate's character, I love how she knocks them away left and right as she's, and she's not bothered by it. She's bothered by it. There was just a lot of, to me, it was
Is that how you felt then?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was a very empowering for me because it was definitely she, and I'll explain why it was empowering for me. I was in a very vulnerable state of mind and needing to see those female characters and needing to see that representation. And even though it was a flash to a 70s San Diego that doesn't really exist or didn't really exist, and maybe it did exist, I wasn't there, it
very much did exist.
But she still comes out of it, and she still comes out of it strong. She comes in strong and she comes out strong, and she doesn't waver. And I needed that. I needed that in my life at that time. You wouldn't think that this would be such an inspirational movie, but it really kind of can be.
For me back then, it wasn't. It was funny, but it also was frustrating. Mm-hmm. So I was very frustrated about, the fact that, she was. It's Christina Applegate.
Yes.
She gets to be her. As a person, she's an amazing actress,
yes.
An amazing person. Very much underutilized throughout the industry.
Oh, definitely.
She's just so talented. But as her character, I was just so because you want to be her.
Yeah.
You want to be her. But of course, I was rooting for the men because I was trying to pretend to be one of them. So my whole thing was being pissed off at her. Even though this is satirical, you don't catch that because you're it's when someone says all men, mm-hmm. and then you respond, it's not all men because we're not all alike, but you just made yourself into
Part of
the
the
all men
problem.
category.
Yes.
Yes, that's kind of what it was like. Is that you end up all menning, not all menning a lot in this because you feel like they're making fun of men, but what it's really doing. And we'll get into that, what it's really doing, but that's how I felt at the time.
Oh, yeah.
As I was angry at her, but also jealous of her at the same time because I was in that position of not being able to be who I wanted to be and who I was. I had to portray this entire ideal
Yeah.
that I'd grown up in. So I was very good at playing the part.
Yeah.
But it's not an excuse. It's just the reasons why I felt that this was like in some way wronging men, even though it's satirical, you really do overlook that a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Well, so we keep saying satirical. So Ron Burgundy's character, he was modeled after a news anchor named Mort Krim. He was in the Detroit area between 1978 and 1997. And Will Ferrell was watching a documentary about another anchor person, an anchor woman named Jessica Savage. Jessica Savage, if you do not know, she was a news anchor. She had kind of traveled. She'd been like in Pennsylvania. She was in New York at one point. She had done a few different things. She had a pretty troubled life, a lot of drug abuse, but she unfortunately was a passenger in a car, and the car went into the Delaware Canal, and she drowned. I think she was 36. Damn. But what had gotten the inspiration wasn't obviously all of that. Was the fact that during the biography that Will Ferrell was watching, there was an anchorman who had said that he did treat her very chauvinistically. He treated her pretty poorly, and that's when he was like, "Oh, we need to put this in the movie. This is what we need to write about." And I know it says, the legend of Ron Burgundy, but I really feel like it is the
kind of the legend of
Veronica Corningstone, right? Corningstone.
Right.
Yeah, and I think so because if you know the history of women in television news and journalism, the sexism, the way they treated them, and like in the beginning when she's getting the fluff pieces, the cat show and the recipe and things like that, those are that's ladies' work. We're not going to give her the hard-hitting ones. It was so nice to see that portrayed, even in a comedy, even in a slapstick, tongue-in-cheek, I killed a man with a trident. There's other things in this movie that are definitely slapstick, but the undertone of her, she is a strong female character. Again, she comes into it strong with her hand on her hip when she walks into that newsroom, when all the guys are sitting around that table. She has her hand on her hip. And I noticed that first thing, like, that is a confident woman right there. They never beat her down. She doesn't cry about it. She doesn't have a breakdown about it. She gets frustrated, but she doesn't let them win. And I love that.
Well, I think Will Ferrell is a very thoughtful man.
Very.
And you can tell that by not just this movie, but other movies, including the documentary in which he and his friend, who is a trans woman, go on this road trip. And, he is a thoughtful person who tries to put in some aspects into pretty much everything he does of these real moments, these real things that are behind it. Mm-hmm. Much like Veronica Corningstone. Traditionally, women in media or women in news, journalists, they always had to suffer for their stories. Men could go in and report. They had access.
Yes.
They had ready access to different things. People came to them to give them stories, Deep Throat, stuff like that. But you think about the journalists, the female journalists or the women, almost all cis, because trans women aren't allowed to do much of anything, especially then. But Nellie Bly, who went into an asylum.
The things that woman did just to get a story. Yeah.
Right. So traditionally, men are able to get access to just about everything just through privilege alone. Now, it doesn't mean they're not putting in work. When I say they're using privilege, it means there's
no one's fighting with them.
Right. They're not being barred for being a man.
Yeah.
Women are barred for being a woman. They're not allowed to do certain things, or they're looked at with disdain, or they're not taken seriously. And people, journalists like Nellie Bly, had to suffer in order to make it known that they're serious about it. So when you're not taken at your word, you have to make sure that your word stands in stone. And I think that's what they're trying to get across.
Oh, yeah.
With Corningstone, is that she isn't hard as nails.
No, she's not.
They
No,
portray her
no.
as an empathetic, a caring person who gets pushed to a point, and she regrets it when she goes too far
Oh, yeah.
in a point. But she has a job to do, and she knows that this is something she needs to do. I think it's a very good portrayal of a woman at that time. And we're talking about like 1975.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yeah.
And I was alive then. I was only 5 years old.
I was one.
But I was alive. I remember what it was like, the flared pants and all. And
Her outfits were cool, though.
her outfits were awesome.
I loved, and those pink shoes in the beginning, they were, I want a pair of them. I have a pair of black ones that are very similar, but those pink ones.
But, I think that they really got that across, that she isn't a stone cold bitch, which is what a lot of
Yes.
women get betrayed as, because they are having to be stern. They have to show that they mean business, that they're not playing around.
So I don't think, and I'm pretty positive I've never seen Anchorman 2. So I'm not sure what they touch on in that movie.
I have not.
But if we were to continue, and again, not knowing what Anchorman 2 is about, if we continue the storyline with Veronica, eventually she's going to have to keep fighting. Even though now it seems like, she won, that they're both co-anchors, blah, blah, blah. The next step, don't get fat. Don't get pregnant. Don't get gray hair. And that is what these female journalists have to deal with. And they have had to deal with for years. Now, I'm assuming it has gotten better because you see it more, women with their hair going gray and heavier and pregnant. And oh my goodness, we had a weather lady out here who we used to joke about, because we would watch her in the mornings with our students, and is like, is she pregnant again? Is she pregnant again?
Are we talking about the redhead?
No, this is a blonde. This is
okay.
a blonde. Oh yeah, but even like the on the Weather Channel, when we used to watch like the Weather Channel, those girls, man, like rabbits. But bless them. But yeah, we used to do that in the mornings of Bella. I'm not going to say her name because I.
But see, it's easy. It's easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
It is so easy to fall into the, they get pregnant a lot. And it gets used against them. It gets used
And
against women
shouldn't.
in general,
It
because
really
they feel like, you're not going to be serious about your job because you'll drop out at any moment. They do this with female teachers.
Every job.
They do it with a lot of professions. So, yeah, this is really, a lot of this is gender politics.
Oh, it is.
And when we're talking about like Corningstone, she's in a male-dominated, industry at the time, was very heavily male dominated, and you didn't see women anchoring on air.
No.
They got to do fluff pieces.
Yeah.
The cutesy stuff, no hard hitting things. Not that they did a lot of hard hitting in this. But it definitely looks at the chauvinism, which is
Definitely.
infuriating. Even though it's joking, it is infuriating, but it is so much more of a harder hit when they fail and you get to laugh at it.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, is that it is the chauvinism, the things that they come out with, the things that they do towards her. It is the fact that it backfires. So, and that to me, that is the true joke. It's not that they're doing these things, saying these things. It's because they backfire so harshly. And she doesn't let them see her getting bothered by it.
Well, she can't.
She can't.
This is the same position that black women find themselves in a lot.
Don't be emotional.
Because if you show emotion, or trans women too, trans women, whether they black or white, they get pushed into these situations using microaggressions or what have you, or flat out refusal of service, things like that, to make you react. And if you react, you are now the bad person. You're the bad guy.
Well, even, and I'm not trying to compare my life to people of color or anybody who's actually, and trans women who deal with this shit, but I just have recently gone through a pretty fucked up situation in my job. And anytime something happens that smacks of it going back in that direction, I talk to one of my admins, and I'm always told, just breathe, Michelle, just breathe. Like I'm being ridiculous. I was blindsided by the situation. I did not expect it. And somebody I trusted turned on me. And I'm told to breathe when I start to think that things like that might be happening again.
Yeah, this is definitely the smile more situation.
Oh, yeah.
Which, and it's worse when it's another woman telling you to be calm.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it was yesterday the person that I
But I think a lot of times that what it's meant by is not to patronize you, but to remind you to stay stoic. Because that's where they get you, is when you start reacting.
I know, but you should be allowed to feel. It's like I sit in a classroom and have to tell students that it's okay to be mad and it's okay to be upset and sad.
Right.
Because our feelings are valid. It's just how we react towards others with our feelings that can be our problem. And what my job is, teaching these babies how to deal and handle their emotions with communication and calming down. But I'm not allowed to have those same things. And that's the problem.
But this is a societal issue.
That is
We're talking
definitely
about a culture that it uses its misogyny. Everything that makes you special as a woman gets used against you.
Oh, yeah.
In a society that is perpetuated by the patriarchal standbys of men are on top, men are strong, and women are weak. And therefore, anything that you do that you react as a woman is going to be seen as a weakness. Yeah. Despite the fact that showing emotion, having emotions is not a weakness, it's a strength.
And so back to the movie really quick, you do see that.
Oh, yeah.
So while she is completely stoic, he loses his shit how many damn times? And it wasn't until he accidentally said the F word on the air that they finally put their foot down with him, but that's only because he reads whatever is on the teleprompter.
Well, Ron is led, this brings up one of the points I had written down, is that Ron is led by his id.
Oh, God,
He is led by ego, his identity, everything surrounds that. When he meets someone, he makes sure his name is known. His ego is on full display the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
And even after he's knocked down, it wasn't about him becoming a better person.
No.
It was about him regaining his ego.
Oh, yeah, because he didn't change. He just got the opportunity to go right back to where he was.
Exactly. And whether or not that's good or bad, maybe we see in Ron Burgundy 2, Anchorman 2.
I kind of want to watch it now because...
Yeah, maybe we will, and we'll talk about what the differences are between these two and how
and did he
we
grow?
feel about it. Or, what were the changes in the movies?
Yeah.
But, we're talking about like social relevance, his status. These are all ego-driven things. His identity basically gets ripped from him when he's let go. So what we're talking about is Olivia Corning. Keep saying Olivia.
Veronica
Corningstone is brought in as not to be a co-anchor. She's brought in to be a reporter. Who will be doing fluff pieces, but she is driven. He doesn't know this. Ron Burgundy, after doing a great show, one of the thousands they've done before.
Yes.
Comes into it. He's at a party. I think it's at his own house, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Or his own apartment. I'm not really sure what that is.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a pool and everything, and they're having a great time, and that's when he meets Veronica,
Yes.
who is unknown to him. He doesn't know who she is. She's all in this white satin jumpsuit, which looks absolutely fantastic
Oh,
on
God,
her.
yes.
That woman is
She's
just
beautiful.
amazing. And I say this about a lot of actresses, but she is one of those women that you actually literally watch grow up.
Well, yeah, and that was something I was going to say too, is that she. So I can't think of. I know she did other movies before Ron Burgundy, but I don't remember her doing anything this like severe, like where you went, holy shit, she can act. Nothing that I can remember. And again, I could be very much off, but I liked this because it made her move away from Kelly Bundy. It was definitely, where her, because that was her start, was Married with Children.
Yes.
And being just that vapid, space cadet and seeing this very
sex kitten.
Yes.
Which is what she was supposed to be, I guess.
And then to see her portray this very intelligent, very confident woman was really nice. And I like that.
We only watched a few episodes. You may not remember it, but Dead to Me, which is TV series.
Yeah.
It came out, I think, in 2019. It ran until 2022, 2023. So not that long ago. This is before she was having problems then, health
her
problems.
MS, yeah.
Right. And, but it was not a serious show, but she has serious moments in it. Mm-hmm. And she does an excellent job in that
Oh,
show.
no, and I'm not saying she's not done anything since.
Yeah, no, I'm
Anchorman.
saying that
that's
she
when
has done serious things.
Oh, yeah, but that was when I think, for me, it was when I noticed her. Because I believe she did that one movie with the babysitter. Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead.
Right.
Yeah, but it was kind of a Kelly Bundy. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah, but The Sweetest Thing. She was in that. So that was a very good. I thought it showed her acting chops.
True. I guess I really enjoyed her portrayal of Veronica.
I did too. I think she knows comedy. We know that she knows comedy. So her timing is great. She's working with people who fully support her, because I got news for you. All those people that are antagonistic in the film
this movie
are people that absolutely love her to death as a person.
Oh, yes. And this movie has a huge cast. We're saying Will Ferrell. We've got Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, David Koechner, Chris Parnell.
Basically, we're talking about
Seth
almost
Rogen.
the entire cast of The Office going into Parks and Rec.
Kristen, not Kristen, because I have Kristen Wiig, but you have to understand, sometimes when I look up stuff, it does give me for the second movie. Fred Armisen,
Agatha.
Paul F. Tompkins, Catherine Hahn. Yes, because Agatha was there. It was Agatha all along. Danny Trejo. I mean, there are so many people. And my buddy, my love, my teddy bear, Jack Black. I love him.
A lot of people are in this film. So many. It's just everybody that shows up on the screen is someone you know for the most part.
It's definitely got a star-studded cast.
I mean, you have a couple of people from Swingers. You have a couple of people from. I mean, they're everywhere. Everybody's got a thing in there.
And I love. Not only does this take place in the 70s, but to me,
was Arquette in there? Arquette
might have been there.
Yes.
I mean, and Baxter.
Yeah.
Baxter. I don't know the name of the dog who played Baxter, but Baxter. What I liked about this movie, and I think maybe this is why I like this movie too, it reminded me of the Cannonball Run series, and because of the cast is so big.
Serious storyline. If you were just to take the storyline and be serious about it, you would have a hard-hitting, very serious storyline.
Oh, definitely.
But like Cannonball Run, it is just funny and fun all the way through.
Oh, yeah, because there's a storyline and it happens, but there's some weird ass shit that also
Did you get the sense that that was a very loose idea of a
Well, there was a
storyline?
lot of improv. They said
Yeah.
when I was doing my research, there was so much improv that they would take so many takes just because. And even like the outtakes at the end of the movie were inspired by Smokey and the Bandit 2's after the movie outtakes. And they even snip in a little bit of Burt
Sally
Reynolds and
Field
Sally
and-
Fields.
yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't even one. To me, that could have been a funnier scene. Like, out of all the scenes of their outtakes, they could have picked a funnier one.
Yeah, they could have definitely picked one between Burt Reynolds and Dom
my
DeLuise
God, that would have been hysterical.
as Captain Chaos.
Well, that was in Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
But that, yeah.
But they all did those vignettes at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And to me, again, and some of y'all might be too young for Cannonball Run, but I recommend them. They are aged.
they are
probably-
horribly sexist.
We might have to watch one just and do an
Sure,
episode
sure, we
because
can do
honestly, it's been decades since I've even thought about
maybe as kids we didn't realize they were ironically sexist.
I mean, they were sexist. I mean, remember the girls in the jumpsuit on the side of the road, just
In the
flashing their
Lamborghini?
tits? Yeah.
Yeah.
That that was like that's the one thing and the guy in the priest. Was that Dean Martin?
Yeah, we
Dean
had
Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. were the priests.
Rat Pack,
Yes. There was, again, so many actors in these movies, and that is what this reminded me of, because everywhere you turn, there were these famous actors, and that will bring us to the big battle.
the Anchorman battle.
Anchorman
is-
battle, which
or
is
the news team battle.
news team battles.
Yeah.
They're like
Ben Stiller, Luke Wilson shows up. Tim Robbins,
and because he had agreed to do this because he agreed to do another movie too.
And,
Yeah.
and Wes Mantooth is played by Vince Vaughn, who has a
Vince
larger
Vaughn.
role than the other news teams.
Yes, and I don't know why I blanked.
What they do is they're acting like they're all newsies.
Kind of, yeah.
They kind of act like they're all
They're like,
this child's version of a gang.
Yeah.
Where they're all just kind of hanging out, ne'er-do-wells, hanging outside their
When
van.
you're a
that's-
jet, you're a,
Yeah, you're a jet for life. Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's funny because, Ron Burgundy's news team, they're the number one. And
Mantooth.
Mantooth, his is number two. And then it goes,
Ben Stiller is the
well, they're the
Spanish
Spanish
speaking.
one, and I think Luke Wilson's are number three, and then there's the
Right.
PBS guys, which is Tim Robbins.
Tim
Oh my
Robbins,
God,
yeah.
I blanked on his name too. And they are all coming out with their weapons, and my favorite weapon was the big stick with the scissors coming through it.
Yeah, they had the scissors mounted through it like spikes.
like spikes, and that to me was
well,
hysterical.
if you look at it, a lot of them are office equipment.
Oh
that's
yeah, I
been
think one of them
repurposed.
had like a little like a pitchfork, like a hot dog flipper from a grill or
Yeah,
something.
just wherever,
Chain, it wouldn't have been.
A lot of bats with the saw blades on them.
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that.
and Brick has a
Grenade.
grenade. And
Where did you get the grenade?
I don't know.
I don't know.
And on it, and he would have been, and again, the way he fought, just holding that grenade out in front of him, going ah. That's how I would have fought. Yeah, back
And
to
the pitchfork.
I killed a guy with a trident.
You did. I was thinking you might want to hide out.
Yeah, go lay low for a while. Steve Carell, yes, to me, out of the Anchor team, Steve Carell was the man for me. I mean, just his jokes were great.
He had such a small part,
I know.
but it wove throughout the entire movie as he is not smart. Mm-hmm. He is very innocent. He has no guile. And he gets used quite a bit, especially, right against Veronica.
Oh, yeah.
Because they send him out to mess with her, but he doesn't know what he's doing or why he's doing it.
Oh, yeah, because he's trying
It's
to
like
get...
sending a turtle out to rob a bank.
He was trying to... He screwed up the "there's a party in my pants" joke. And then she's like, wait, are you trying to tell me there's a party in your pants? And he's like, yeah, you want to come to the party in my pants? And she's like, no. And he turns to Chris Parnell, and he's like, do you want to come to the party in my pants?
It wasn't Chris Parnell, but yes, it was another
it was one of the other,
that-
yeah. Sorry, I thought it was Chris Parnell, because he was her ghost for a while, because he was her cameraman.
Right.
So yeah, and then he trips over something off stage, and the whole thing is a mess. But yeah, and his non sequiturs, like when they were all talking, and he's like, my coffee burned my tongue, you know.
And you can tell a lot of this is just Steve Carell just
being Steve Carell.
Well, just being the improv person that he started out as.
Oh yeah, and I love him.
So we have like Ron Burgundy, who is being in his own way nice to Veronica.
Yes, he is.
At first, they are being nice to each other. They're going out, but they're not dating. They're going out to show her the city that he loves. And he does love San Diego. Got to give him that.
He gets it all wrong about how it got its name, but...
Yes. A whale's vagina.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A whale's vagina.
San
From
Diego,
the Germans
the
named
German
it.
word for whale's vagina. And I've said that more times than I ever wanted to. But yeah, so we have them like going out, and they do end up hooking up, and she's like, be discreet, but him being a man does not understand that this causes harm to women. It causes irreparable harm to their goal of being taken seriously in business.
Yes.
Which is why most women are reticent to get involved with anyone in their career.
Oh yeah. And every one of them tries. So Paul Rudd tries with, what is the name of the cologne?
Sex Panther.
Sex Panther, made with real panther bits.
That is pungent.
It's the descriptions.
That smells like gasoline.
Gasoline. What was one? A dirty diaper filled with Indian food, which is very racist, but fucking funny. And there were so many. It smelled like a dead something. Shit, I can't remember now. There were so many funny lines.
Though. Oh, you could tell they were just throwing out whatever ideas they had, which was great.
And like whenever Veronica and him were having like arguments, like so it was supposed to look like they were bantering as the credits rolled, but they would turn off their mics. And then, so that Ron and her are, saying shit, because obviously they're saying shit to each other, because when they would flash to the live, you see them actually saying shit to each other. But that had to have been some of the hardest stuff to record, because Will Ferrell's going to make you laugh. And then they show it in the credits, Christina Applegate just losing her shit because she just can't compete with it sometimes.
Him saying, this is so ludicrous. I mean, because it's crazy. It's a crazy idea. But you made it work because of the sheer fantasy of it.
Oh, exactly.
It's none of this is going to happen in real life.
No.
This is crazy, except...
But you don't know, though. Some of them probably did fight with each other.
In 1970s, I can tell you, they did not want women in the newsroom.
Oh, no.
They didn't even want them to be cub reporters, but they're there, so now they have to deal with them.
True.
A lot of times they're treated like gophers.
Oh, yeah.
They don't get to be part of the team. They're always shunted off to the side. And that's what I was saying before, is you have to, in order to be taken seriously, you have to harm yourself in some way. You have to show beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're willing to put yourself in harm's way to get a story for them to even recognize you, much less respect you.
And that's the thing too, is we kind of skipped over this a little bit, but part of the reason why they bicker. So yeah, everybody in the little news team, how did break past, like, he had...
Well, back then you didn't have to be...
You didn't have to have a degree
from meteorology. No, you just had to look up in the sky and say it's raining or not.
Okay, only because he says he has an IQ of 48.
Someone's going to dispute that, and that's okay. But I'm saying in 1975, no one gave a shit. They were probably just glad...
They were all on cocaine anyway, on the cocaine.
I don't know if cocaine was prevalent right then.
In the 70s? Yes.
No, I mean in the newsroom, maybe.
Oh, I don't know.
Definitely in disco. They kind of made it a thing.
So yeah, they all hit on her, and with the Sex Panther, and before that, David Kocher.
We call him Champ.
Champ, yes.
Yeah.
Champ, he just straight out tries to grope her, and she nuts him. I mean, she just freaking punches him right in the dick.
He brushes his hand across her breast, and she calls him out on it.
And yeah, she says, "Are you trying to touch my breast?" And then he's like, "Yeah." And she punches him in the dick. But it was somehow Ron's gun show.
It wasn't the gun show.
No.
It wasn't even, it had nothing really to do with that other than she found him to be cute.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So this was about her attraction and not what he was doing to enhance that.
Yeah.
And she can think he's ridiculous, but she could also probably see that there's some sweetness to him. And that's one of the things is, I think with, men in general, you have to kind of look past what they're projecting for their own ego or for society's, view of them. You have to look past a lot of that to see what the person is inside. So I think that's a lot of what she's doing, but also I think some of it is that sometimes women just deal with a man despite he's being an ass or despite him being a bigot or a misogynist or whatever, because there's just not that many men around worth dealing with. And you find one that's kind of worth dealing with, and she's not looking to get into a relationship. They just
even
hook
though
up.
Immediately he's like, "I love you. I love you."
Oh, they both fall in love immediately, which is kind of crazy.
But when the whole situation with Baxter happens, so he's driving down the road with Baxter, eating a burrito, and he throws his burrito out the window because he's like, "This is tasty, but I'm full," and he tosses it out the window. So basically, he litters and hits Jack Black in the face.
Who's on a motorcycle? Because he's a big dirty biker.
Yeah.
Because everyone's afraid of Jack Black. I just don't see it as weirdest
he's
thing.
A big old teddy bear.
It was the weirdest casting ever.
I know, but it worked because he crashes back behind him, and he's like, "I love that bike, and now I'm going to take away what you love." And he's like, "Well, I don't love anything, but." I forget what he said, but then he said, "But
my suits,
Jack. And my and Baxter here." So Jack Black picks up Baxter and kicks him off the bridge, and you see the stuffed animal. Ah!
Little known fact about this is that Jack Black was hired for this part specifically because he was willing to kick a live dog off of the bridge. He's like, "I have no problem with that." And they're like, "You sure?"
Except he didn't kick a live dog off the bridge.
And he did it.
He did not. He kicked a stuffed animal off the bridge.
He should really hide out somewhere.
He's got to lay low. And so obviously, Baxter being Ron's true love, he loses his shit, and that makes him late for work. And so they're in a panic. Fred Willard, he's the station manager, and he's like, gotta find
Ed Harkin. Throughout the movie, every time Ed Harkin comes on screen, he's on the phone trying to explain why his kid is horrifying. His son gets progressively into worse and worse trouble as he goes. First,
and he's like, "Kids will be kids, won't they? Kids,
It was like German porn. A lot of German came up during this.
Yeah, didn't he?
Time.
Didn't he like shoot something? I forget. Remember? Yeah.
It got progressively worse as the movie went.
Yeah,
on.
I try to enjoy the movie, so I don't always take as many notes as I had been doing. And so he panics, and she's like, "No, I've been telling you, I can do this. And so they put.
She demands to do it.
She does. She
doesn't.
Goes, "I will be." Well, because she told him before, and he was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not putting you on TV." And but this time she's like, "I'll be in makeup when you need me." Basically, I'm all you got. So he takes a chance. He puts her on, and it works. But then Ron shows up. Well, first he's crying.
Well, it works, and she does a great job.
She does a great job.
And she feels she's got this real high, of accomplishing.
Yeah, and she's
this
excited
dream
to
of hers.
share this with him. He calls, and he's talking to Paul Rudd's character, and he's like, "I'm in a glass box," and he's like, and he kicked him off the bridge, and there was a burrito, and it was so good. I loved it so much.
Yeah, he was way over the top and in despair.
And then
he makes
like,
it to the...
Well, he doesn't. He does. I don't think he was gonna come to the station until Paul Rudd's like, they're gonna put the girl on the screen, and he freaks out and he runs and he makes it to the station. He's like, I'm here, we're gonna do this, and they'd already filmed, and so she's all excited and she's trying to tell him, this happened and I'm so excited about it, and he just.
Well, she makes sure that he understands. Well, she was trying to make him understand.
Yeah, she was trying to tell him, you weren't here.
And I took over and I did such a good job. She wanted him to be proud of her because she does like him.
Yeah.
And you want him to be proud of her.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, he goes the super childish route of being angry at her for something she didn't have anything to do with. Mm-hmm. She did not set up the position. What she did was what anyone would do, is to fulfill a need because it was there. And she knew it was a shot, yes, but it wasn't to take his place. She just wanted to be on the air. She wanted to do her job and do it well. And she did.
I agree. She did. And so he breaks up with her. Or they break up. I don't know if it was mutual, but they kind of both bicker.
Well, they
kind of like, meh. Yeah.
Well, he was angry at her because he didn't want his ego checked.
Yeah.
And she was angry at him because she was truly hurt that she wanted him to be proud of her.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't. And so that emotional support is just gone, ripped out from under her when she thought this is somebody she had a connection with.
Yeah. And that's a huge blow. And you can't really come back from something like that. I mean, it takes a lot of healing to do. You wouldn't be easily forgiving of something like that, especially when it's something you're very proud of.
Right.
And you've worked hard to get to this place. And you finally got through the door. And then the person that you thought you cared for and that you thought they cared for you turns around and is like, meh, and gets pissed at you for it. So that's why they're bickering. That's why they're sniping at each other through the rest of the movie. Most of the movie.
Well, he's let go.
Yeah. Well, so again, they're bickering back and forth. He keeps trying to break her. And so Catherine Hahn, her character Helen, is like, hey, I'm not supposed to say this, but Ron will read anything you put on the teleprompter.
This is after months of them torturing her.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get her to quit.
In the most petty ways. Of them calling her desk from the window of his own desk, of his own office.
Oh, yeah.
Where she can see him plainly. He's trying to act like other people.
This is your gynecologist. You're knocked up.
So, she's being tortured this whole time to make her do a bad job or try to. And she has to keep holding firm all this time, but not show any emotion, because showing it is that sense of losing.
Yeah.
If you lose control, then you lose your power.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to maintain control.
And they actually have a fight before the teleprompter thing happens. Then this is after the Anchorman battle, because all I kept thinking of is when she hits him with the antenna in his arm. Isn't that where Mantooth had the knife or had the dagger or whatever it was?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, ow, that could have hurt really bad. But yeah, they just start like...
Well, she wanted to use the VCR.
Oh, yeah, that was what it was.
And
he was watching...
He was using it so that she couldn't get access in 75.
They didn't
The VCRs were limited. You weren't going to get a bunch of VCRs, which is like a DVD player.
Is it 75?
And for those
now
of you
I'm wondering
that
if it was closer to the 80s.
No, it's 75. That's what it said in the notes.
Oh, okay. So there's me.
So it said it in the notes because I wrote it in my notes. But no, it's 75. So the reason why they need that machine to play that piece of media, kids, is because they didn't have phones that could play videos.
Yes.
So to play videos, they had to put it on tape.
Yes.
And then they put that in a giant machine that's bigger than a Buick, which is a car.
Yes.
And that's how they could play a bad video.
And so he gets mad because she just kind of storms over and starts playing it. They have a fight. And at one point, she goes up to that TV, which is not a big TV, but it was big for the time. And she reaches behind it. And so there used to be these metal rods that lived on the backs of TVs called antenna. because we had analog and we did not
Really
have
talking
digital.
down to our audience right now.
No, I'm sorry. I teach small children.
We both are.
I teach children, and this is how, sometimes we have to explain things like this. And so, yeah.
I mean, it is alien technology
It is
to most
alien.
kids now because they don't know about it.
No,
I mean,
and
if
it's
you don't
not your
encounter
fault.
it.
You guys didn't know it. I didn't grow up with...
If they see a VCR in the museum, they could still program the clock, though.
Yeah, they could. Better than me, probably.
Well, I mean, better than our parents.
Oh, well, that's the truth. I mean, I don't know. I know that, that old technology existed before my time, but I can't look at every piece of wrought iron, whatever contraption with hinges and go, oh, yeah, well, that's that. I don't know. So I wouldn't expect anybody younger than me to know exactly what an antenna
Well,
on the back
especially
of the
because this
TV.
VCR is made to look huge.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 50 times bigger than any VCR would be.
Well, yeah.
And it's
because-
all like metal plated with gears on the outside. It was crazy.
So, but she pulls off one of the antenna and just beats the crap out
Well,
of
this is after she threw a typewriter.
Oh, yeah, she threw a typewriter at him.
One of those giant IBM typewriters that
God.
weighs like 80 pounds.
She was buff.
I mean, she did some real damage.
She really did. And she might have to lay low for a while.
We're going to keep bringing that back.
So they both get in big trouble for this. And that's when she has the luncheon afterwards with Catherine Hahn. And she tells her about the teleprompter
Who
issue.
before did not have much of a
Not a line.
line.
No.
I think she had a couple of words.
Yeah.
And mainly she was woman in the background. So you keep seeing
That's why-
Agatha in the
that's-
background, which is very disconcerting.
No, but it also feeds into the Agatha all along trope of she's always been there in the background in
background.
something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, because we all know that she's also Charles's ex-wife in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Correct.
And tries to steal his sperm. So,
Which was for a spell.
yeah. And I love
Just
Agatha.
making up our own storylines.
Exactly. It's always the headcanon that's more interesting.
So yeah, Ed fires Ron
Because he says the F word.
because
He says, fuck you, San Diego, instead of his regular stay classy.
it's go fuck yourself.
Go
San
fuck
Diego.
yourself, San Diego.
Yeah.
And all the people who loved him immediately turned on him.
Immediate with no hesitation.
None whatsoever.
It's because Veronica put that in the
yes. He thinks Mantooth did it. But yes.
right. So
And
she put it on the teleprompter. He read it, and she just kind of sat there.
and she pretended like she had no idea. She's, oh my
Right.
God.
But then you could see how she realizes this is a much bigger deal than she thought.
Yeah. Because she probably thought he might have caught it,
Right.
and he didn't. And so it's him. So they kind of, the other guys in his news team, they're not allowed to talk to him now because he's been let go. And people are throwing shit at him in the streets, and
He's drinking a carton of milk
milk was a bad idea.
in San Diego in the summertime. And he's like,
Oh, it's hot. And he's like, milk was a bad.
milk was a bad choice.
And somehow he's already got a full beard. I mean,
I know, probably one of my favorite lines in the
Is the
movie
milk
for some
one?
reason is the milk was a bad choice.
it made us both laugh out loud because I forgot about that line. And there's another little storyline going in the background about this panda. They keep mentioning the panda being pregnant. The panda.
Well, and they go through a montage basically of the news team, fully newly formed with the same guys, but now with Veronica as the head.
Yes. And like I said, in the background, throughout the whole entire movie, they keep bringing up this panda that first it was pregnant, and then the pregnancy was doing great, and so it's just you've been following along, so you get almost like a time, a passage of time. That's what I'm trying to get. So when we get to the end, Ron is still fired, and this panda is about to give birth. So of course, all the news stations have sent all their people there. What we didn't mention was during the Anchorman battle, Luke Wilson did lose an arm. It was sad. We mourned it, buried it in the backyard. And he's there. Tim Robbins is there. Ben Stiller is there. They're all at the zoo trying to get an image, but they've got curtains up like an old-fashioned delivery room. And that to me was
They're wearing scrubs.
and they're wearing scrubs, and that's funny.
Although you have to take into account in the 70s and the 80s, The pandas were a huge deal.
Oh, no, definitely.
That is not an exaggeration from Anchorman. Did they have that equipment in the in the middle of the staging area for pandas to play around?
The outside area? No.
No, they probably had it in a sterile room inside one of the buildings.
Oh, yeah. Even now, they don't have them giving birth outside.
But I can imagine they were very on edge because these are all on loan from China. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to harm anything. And you definitely don't want to lose a baby.
No.
And they lose them a lot.
Oh, yeah. Pandas are... it's amazing that they have lived as long as they have, even without human interference. Like, as you know, we are the reason why they're endangered, but it's amazing that we are the reason why they're endangered.
We have to do a lot of damage for pandas, who are the dumbest creatures alive.
Adorable. Don't get us wrong. We don't hate pandas, but they are so stupid.
They actively choose to eat food that they cannot digest.
They actively, the babies have no...
We're going to get a zoologist
oh my God.
losing their goddamn minds.
I'm sorry, but the internet has shown me a lot of videos of baby pandas being stupid. They have no fear. They are worse than toddlers. They really are. And I have raised a lot.
But that's why they're adorable. Because when you see a panda,
adorable.
You do not think this is something that could tear off my face, because you honestly see Kung Fu Panda the whole time. It is just a stupid bear that is adorable and will do nothing to hurt you, and you maybe need to get it a pot of honey.
I love watching those videos of the baby pandas when they're trying to clean the little area for them, and the baby pandas are just in the way and fucking shit up. Oh yeah, that makes me laugh my ass off. Or when they're on their little jungle gyms and they just roll off. Yes. How do they survive in the wild?
I don't think they do. I think mainly humans have kept them alive because, let's face it, if a panda's in the wild, it's getting eaten.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't see how they survive.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying, even without humans taking them down and making them endangered, how they didn't make themselves endangered.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, hey, if you know more about pandas and you can show me how smart they actually are, please write to me, because I want to know more about pandas.
And we're going to need citations on that.
Yeah, honestly, we are peer-reviewed,
They are ridiculous creatures.
But so they go, and of all...
After we thoroughly trash pandas, let's move on to the movie. Them.
They're cute. They're just stupid. But my cat's stupid too, and I love him.
It's true, he is cute.
He is dumb as a box of rocks, and he also falls off shit. So
cats are pandas. You heard it here first.
He'll be rolling and stretching. Next thing you know, he's on the floor because he fell off the ottoman. So they go to the zoo. And the zoo was actually, I think, I don't remember which zoo they said it was that they filmed this in, but it was in a zoo that they know it was abandoned. I just don't remember what the name of it was. And they're all trying to get these shots.
It's definitely not the San Diego zoo.
No, it's not the San Diego zoo, because that zoo is actually still a thing. They do go, and they're all trying to jockey for shots. And Veronica sees...
Well, she sent her cameraman one way.
Yeah, and she went the other way.
She went the other, and she found the best angles. You could actually see the panda crotch.
I guess so.
It was weird.
And Tim Robbins sees her, and he's like, oh, yeah.
This is the PBS news anchor.
Yes, and, he did one of those, it would be, wouldn't it be a bad thing if you fell into this Kodiak bear?
Well, he said, he said? Oh, at PBS, we really respect women. And then he pushes her into
the Kodiak bear. But it was I was trying to do the meme.
Yeah.
And so she's in there, and he's like, I wouldn't scream, because the first thing she does is, ah! And then she's going, ah! The face.
She's trying to whisper scream.
And whisper help. And they can't find her. And Fred Willard, Harkin, he comes into it, and he's like, well, I'm going to have to call the one person I didn't want to have to call, because there's no other anchorman in San Diego that he could call to do this.
No substitute anchors.
No substitutes.
Ron's never been sick in his life.
But he knows the bar he's at to call. And he does. And One of my other favorite parts is when he's like, okay, we need you to come back here. Veronica's missing, blah, 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 blah. He goes and Ron goes into the bathroom, gets cleaned up, comes out looking sparkly. And
yeah, he goes into the
men's room
and comes right back out again, completely ready to go with shaved face and everything.
And Trejo's like, yeah, that's the dude. And he pulls out a conch shell because he's like, I got to call my team. He pulls out a conch shell and he calls.
He blows it and you see it goes like a vignette of the landscape, of San Diego, like it's going out across the city.
Oh, yeah. And the guys were right there in the bar with him.
Yeah, they're like, what, man?
Yeah, he's like, when did you get here? We've been here all along.
We've literally been here the entire time.
And it's like, but you were told not to go near him.
Yeah, they were in the same bar. They can't help that.
They were playing pool. So they all run to the zoo because that's what you do. And as they're getting ready, he hears, help, help. He's like, did you hear that? And, but when he blew the conch and he called his people, Baxter heard. Baxter climbs out of the whatever river he was still floating in. I'm coming, Ron, he says. And
in his dog
language. And they see Veronica, and he goes in there with her, right?
He jumps in.
And then so does Brick and Champ and
No, they run and get Ed.
Oh yeah, they run and get Ed, and then he's like, they're like, he keeps getting loud and waking up the bears, and she's like, shh, and then he would like say something.
He keeps talking louder
and louder and louder. And then at one point, doesn't he call her like a whore or something? Oh yeah, she admits that she's the one who fucked with the teleprompter, because he's like, yeah, I know it was Mantooth, and she goes, no, it was me, and he goes, you whore, and then all the good Kodiak bears are awake now.
Well, he said you bitch.
You bitch.
Yeah.
So well, he does call her a whore at one point, but yeah, he does call her a bitch, and
a lot of that going around.
Oh yeah, well, and so they're getting attacked by the bears. The other guys come jumping into the bear enclosure, and the bear battle ensues. Brick is riding the bear at one point.
Or one of the bears.
One of the bears.
Because there's many,
yeah. And as they think they're winning, and then
it's weird when Steve Carell's character Brick is the comedy relief in a comedy.
That is true. He is the comic relief in the comedy. Oh my God. But he, yes, they're all fighting them and stuff. And then like there's the mama bear, and the mama bear comes out, and that's when Baxter shows up.
Right.
And Baxter talks to the bear because
he met one of his people.
Yes.
One of his cousins.
And that was, that's my cousin. And so Baxter becomes an honorary bear, and they all are allowed to leave in peace. And they get a ladder, and everybody comes out, except Ron comes at the end. And that's when Mantooth comes up to him and threatens to like push him. But he says, how he could easily kind of knock him down right now, but he has too much respect for him.
Right.
And then he kisses him on the forehead.
And then helps him out. And then Veronica and Ron kiss.
Yes.
And,
And the movie pretty much.
That pretty much ends.
Yeah, and then the credits come up with
you see them later co-hosting together.
Yes.
In the World News. Because at the panda event, the birth there was a news scout.
Scout, yeah.
He was a news anchor scout
or something
which
like that.
I don't know what the hell that means, but yeah.
A talent scout for the news anchors.
Which sounds like something, like a high school thing, really.
I mean...
a talent scout or...
I don't think talent scouts actually exist. I think that they are something made up by television shows and the music industry so people can say, oh yeah, I was pumping gas one day. Looking at you, Florence Welch. I was pumping gas and singing, and somebody said, they heard me, and I
actually did meet a baseball scout. He was a scout for players.
But I can see that more realistically than like seeing somebody in a McDonald's who happened to be humming a tune.
I don't know. I mean, weird things happen.
I guess so.
David Boreanaz was walking down the street when that jackass saw him. For Buffy,
okay. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Who shall not be named,
I
unfortunately.
guess I've never met one, so they don't exist.
I mean, I don't think he was acting as his own scout in that instance, but
Yes.
yes. So the media plays a huge part in this because we're talking about sensationalism. We're talking
yes.
about, the panda is a big thing, but we're also talking about that ego-driven industry. Mm-hmm. And Veronica had to have her own ego. Mm-hmm. She just had to check it so often.
And so...
It wasn't allowed to run rampant.
Exactly. But so let's look at, really quick, backtrack to the Anchorman battle. Not the battle itself, but that ring of men. And you look at every one of them. Yes, you've got your Ben Stiller. You've got your Luke Wilson. They are handsome men.
Luke Wilson lost both his arms in this movie.
Both his arms in this movie.
So here's my question. How is Luke Wilson doing now after Ron Burgundy?
No.
Did he get metal arms? Because I have seen him in other stuff and they look hyper realistic.
I don't remember seeing him in any movies recently.
So you think the loss of the arms really caused a detriment in his career?
I'm not saying that. It's just that I don't follow in Luke Wilson circles.
Oh, that's true.
Literally, the only other Luke Wilson movie I can think of is the one with Drew Barrymore, Home Fries.
Oh, yeah, that was a good movie.
It was a cute movie, but that's literally the only one I can think of at the moment. I know he's done stuff.
Without his arms, he's done pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, I am kind of fond of his brother.
So he lost an arm during the battle, and then he lost another arm in the
Bears.
To the bears. A bear just reached up out of the enclosure that's super high and
took
ripped
his arm
off.
Luke Wilson and Owen Wilson, and I always want to say Luke Owen, and I think I did say Luke Owen, but it's Luke Wilson, and it's Owen Wilson. But I always say their names.
Owen Wilson not appearing in this film.
But I was going to say, I love Owen Wilson, but I'm like, that can't be his name because his last name is Owen and his name isn't Owen. I'm like, oh my God, you idiot. This is the thought I'm having in my head. Y'all, some days.
Okay, so yeah, before the fight, you see all these men in a circle.
And they're very well polished, don't get me wrong. They've got the suits, they've got that look about them.
And the weapons.
But that's not the part I'm saying. You got your good-looking guys, you got your okay-looking guys, and you got your looking guys. It goes back to the fighting to become a female anchor person on news television. They didn't have to. And think about like even your Walter Cronkites. The men that you know who ruled the news television world, they were not always the most handsome guys. They were not, because it wasn't about their looks. It was about their talent, their ability. It was
about their gravitas,
their ability
to convey an idea.
Exactly. But the women were not given that for many years, and I wonder if, honestly, if they are ever really truly given that. Even now, the Connie Chungs, yes. There were some. I remember Connie Chung back in the day when I watched news.
Barbara Walters.
I think but even Barbara had to maintain a look. Connie had to maintain a look,
absolutely.
a beauty. And it's so angering to know that that's all they see in the worth of a woman. Not her talent, not her ability to do the damn job.
Well, that's something that you see when we're talking about progression of time in the media, mm-hmm. specifically news anchors, is that when it was the 50s and the 60s, mm-hmm. we're talking about people that could just do the job.
Yeah.
Didn't matter about their looks,
mm-hmm.
really at all. And then when we get into the 70s, when women start really becoming prevalent as part of the media machine, mm-hmm. the sensationalism starts taking off.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking about some wild ideas of how to do the news, start progressing. It becomes a soap opera in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with they didn't take the women seriously, but they were going to use them for their looks.
Oh, yeah, because that would be the draw, is the men would watch it because they were pretty and the women would watch it because they were relatable. And no, it wasn't. that's not how it works. Yeah, so the guys might have looked at her like, oh yeah, well, she's pretty and that's why I'm watching this. I don't give a shit what she's saying. But women weren't going, oh, well, she's relatable. No, they made her done up. She didn't look like the average woman. And that's not what makes just having a beautiful female on a television screen does not make her relatable to the average woman, because she is an unobtainable beauty, which is why we have a huge beauty industry that, especially in the 80s and the early 90s, it was so unrealistic. You had your supermodels that were airbrushed, but little girls didn't know that. They thought they had to starve themselves to look that way. And the makeup, even now, you see these flawless faces in magazines and on TV and these girls on TikTok with blurred filters and stuff. And their skin looks so beautiful. But what you're not taking into consideration is that these things can be, back in the day, airbrushed. Nowadays, it's layering of makeup to get that flawless look. The average woman does not wear that out in public. The average person...
Oh, no, it would look like a cake.
Oh, my God. I couldn't even imagine having that on my face for too long. I can't wear foundation because it literally breaks up before it even gets on. When it's on my skin, it just breaks up. It doesn't look right. And I've had professionals do my makeup for a wedding, and and even they couldn't get it to lay smooth on my skin. It just doesn't work. So to see these beautiful women on screen, it's not relatable. But that was the impression that these men in power thought, this is a relatable thing. So these women are going to see other women.
But I think that's what this movie does well, is critique that sensationalism.
Oh, definitely.
Because it is over the top. Let's face it, it's way over the top. But it's not so far over the top, you don't recognize it as 1970s news.
No, it's 1970s news.
You feel that energy, that crazy production ideas that, like, we're going to watch a panda give birth and we're going to all race to the scene.
The smoking of the cigarettes in the beginning. He's
cigarettes
just
everywhere.
And he's on screen smoking. Now that they're not filming yet, but he's still there. And they're like,
Scotch. I love scotch.
Yes. And he literally drinks a glass of scotch before he even, they're about to go live, and he's chugging it down. And that was probably pretty realistic for that time. The 70s was a wild hair,
was, yeah. I mean, a lot of smoking in the buildings, which is kind of crazy to think about now. But
that's why all the pictures were so yellow, because of all the smoke in the air.
In the 80s, I remember when they started outlawing smoking in buildings and in workplaces.
Oh, yeah. And then I remember my family members being all pissy about it.
I was pissy about it because I was a smoker then.
I mean, everybody in my family smoked a cigarette.
I was like, I can't smoke at my desk now. This is bullshit. I have to go outside.
Or even in restaurants. Oh my God, I remember in restaurants when you could smoke at your table.
Oh yeah.
And then it was smoking sections.
McDonald's had the little ashtrays that everybody stole.
Yeah. It's amazing that they didn't discover I had asthma as a kid, because I was raised by all these smokers. I had secondhand smoke damage from a very young age.
Did you know that McDonald's used to have glass ashtrays?
Yep, I remember.
We used to steal them all the time.
I think my grandmother even had one.
I say steal. I think they're complimentary.
I think they kind of are.
Not really.
No, they're not.
They went to the little thin metal ones afterwards.
And now you couldn't find one. You'd have to use one of those.
Find it on electronicbay.com.
No, you have to use those ketchup cups and pull them apart so they make a big circle.
I don't think they want you smoking in their businesses
or
anymore.
in their ketchup cups. They are paper.
But we see that, and then there's another aspect that is fully on display in this film, which is like friendship and loyalty. Mm-hmm. So the news teams, they're all like these little groups or little gangs.
Yeah.
But Ron's crew are all friends with each other. Mm-hmm. But they all kind of keep each other in check.
They do, and they do watch out for Brick. They really do.
But they look out for each other in some bad ways. Mm-hmm. So like facilitating, patriarchal standards.
Oh, definitely.
When what's his name? Champ starts displaying his actual love for Ron.
Yeah.
Saying some things that could be considered a little gay.
And not in a bad way, but definitely
gay. I think that at that point is when Brian Fantana, who is Paul Rudd, is trying to tell him to calm down. We'll take you away from this.
Yeah.
He doesn't want him to display his feelings, and Champ is actually
He's like, we need to move in together and everything. Yeah,
but he's displaying
because he's upset. Yeah,
erratically so, but he's displaying some real feelings. And Brick is sweet, innocent, doesn't know what's going on. But
he eats a candle, guys, a red candle, and no one stopped him.
He ate a red candle, and no one said anything about it.
No.
Brian Fantana, who has moments of clarity in which he seems like he might be a nice guy, but then he devolves immediately.
Oh, fast.
Like he checks himself.
Mm-hmm. But he did name his dick and both of his testicles. One of them has a doctorate.
Right. Which, it's impressive, really.
I mean, yeah, I don't even want to go for
the long nights of his crotch being open.
I mean, I don't even want to go for my doctorate. I can't imagine how a testicle can do it.
So tell me about love, Ron. And, they want to know about love, and they really don't know what that is. And Champ doesn't know, Brick doesn't know, but doesn't seem to know what he's even there for. And Brian doesn't know, had it once, but it wasn't really love.
No.
And they sing Afternoon Delight.
And they sing it beautifully.
They do. They really do a good job. And I really like Champ's pew at the in the refrain. It's always really nice.
And we kind of talked about this when we were watching it, but I loved Steve Carell doing the high notes because it harkens to when they do it on The Office with him.
He goes falsetto.
He does the falsetto. It was him and Jim singing it, John
Islands in the Stream.
Krasinski, yeah. And they're doing Islands in the Stream. But don't they sing? No, Afternoon Delight. Oh, they do Islands in the Stream.
Yeah.
It was Kelly who sings. Somebody sings Afternoon Delight, don't they?
I thought that was Kevin.
Maybe it was.
I don't know. I can't remember that.
But it did harken to them doing the karaoke. And you're right. Islands in the Stream is when he did it with John. And he does do the falsetto for that too. And I love that. That's Steve Carell's natural go-to with any of these funny things that he does when he's singing is to go to take the high notes. And I love that.
And he always goes to the opposite of what you expect he's going to do.
I love it.
And now you expect
no one else is going to, so now I'm going to do it.
And it becomes fun that you see him doing the thing he's going to do.
Exactly.
That's against what everyone else expects.
Exactly.
So it becomes it's really meta in
But they do a beautiful job of Afternoon Delight, even though it is one of my most cringy songs. I do not like that song.
But during the song, they're having a conversation in between their own verses.
Oh, yeah. They do. They stop and they're like,
and they're discussing it. And you see the evolution of like what is love? And then they're going to that male disdain for love because it takes away from your individuality. There's a lot of that. And it is something that I think all humans progress through.
Yeah.
When you define yourself at an early age, you start defining yourself and you are the singular person. Mm-hmm. To introduce a new person in, which is much like Veronica coming into the newsroom, you're falling into this thing of, well, who am I now? If I'm not this, am I this? What am I? And how does this dynamic of this new person who I have feelings for, how does that change things for me?
And will I lose myself? Because some people do lose themselves in relationships.
Especially when you're younger.
Oh, definitely when you're younger. Because again, experiences. And it's just, I didn't think about that, but I do appreciate that look too. And you're right. If you're going through like the whole child development into adolescence, into young adulthood, it is that and it goes back to the id and your inner workings of, I am self, there are others, who am I, that ego, and you have to start to learn who you are. And sometimes you don't get that opportunity because if you do jump into relationships before your brain is matured and you have figured out who you are, and some people can figure themselves out pretty early. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. It's just that relationship, this is a group of 5 men who are very emotionally immature.
That's where I was going to go with that.
So him having this relationship and them talking about it is almost like a bunch of teenage boys doing it, even though they're grown-ass men.
But I felt that
it was a very good,
despite the comedy of it, I felt it was a very good scene of talking about your emotions,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe in a way they could fit it into their identities, so that rather than feeling super vulnerable, they couch it within the song so that it doesn't seem too sappy or seem
Oh,
too
yeah.
vulnerable.
And even the song, while is about sex, it's not a raunchy song about sex.
It's a song, I mean, it can be taken many ways, but if you're talking about someone in a relationship, it's you being with someone you love in the middle of the day, rather than, it's a difference than being there at night. It's your can't wait to get home to be with the person you love. And I took it that way in the context of this, is that Ron is expressing, however badly, is expressing his desire to be with Veronica so much sooner than waiting until the end of the day. He's excited about his new relationship. He shouts it, despite her asking for discretion.
Yes.
For her own,
she does say, we should probably keep this quiet for a little
for
while.
her own needs, because she is a female.
Oh, yeah.
She is a woman in an industry that is male dominant, and they will not take her seriously unless she projects.
And they would immediately say she slept her way to the top.
Exactly. And we see now, even in today's society, you cannot get away from that. Women cannot get away from that.
Totally. That's very, very frustrating.
So the friendships that you see that are here, even despite the fact that they're working with Veronica, they are still his friends.
Yeah.
They still go to the bar to play pool. They're still there with him.
Even though they can't talk to him, they're still there.
Right. They're still there. There's that loyalty within the groups of different news anchors and different news teams, that type of thing.
I want to know where the horses came from. Because they weren't there in the Trident. Who brought the Trident into the mix?
But I think even like their competition amongst each other.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of underscores the relationship, like the different friendships within the groups and stuff. And it's funny when they first meet the opposing news team, this number 2 news team, Mantooth and his cronies, you see Brick is. No, it's during the big.
It's during the big battle. Yeah, when
during
they're
the big battle,
right before the battle.
Brick is over on the other side, laughing
at them,
at his own team,
and they're like, "Brick, get over here!" And they go over and get him. Yeah, and one of my favorite lines is when Mantooth first comes on, and I think is it Champ who says it? I'm going to take your mother, Dorothy Mantooth, out on a date and take her to an expensive seafood restaurant and never call her back.
It's Champ, yeah.
That is a cut. Dorothy Mantooth is a saint.
So, to me, this movie, I know it has a lot of themes that you don't really expect, because it seems
deeper than you realize.
It seems surface level, and I know we tend to find the deep.
But I like finding the deep.
We tend to take shallow and find the deep in it. But it is about change and adapting to change.
Now, I don't think Ron changes much, but I do see.
Oh, I think I know you're talking about interpersonal change. I'm talking about societal change.
Oh, definitely.
So we're talking about women coming into the workplace and taking head roles within those workplace situations. That reverberates down throughout the culture. So not only are they taking head roles in jobs and employment, but they're also becoming the heads of their households.
Oh, true.
They're taking a stronger stance against men who try to keep them in those subservient roles. The film, I think, is in a very humorous way, is trying to explore how these characters are reacting to that change of a huge, for the men, a huge, what feels like a blow to their egos. And for the women, a huge lift to their spirits and to their hope that they will find some kind of a modicum of equality, if not equity, at least equality in some instances. And Veronica digs that out with her bare hands, like all women have had to do. They've had to dig it out with their bare hands with little to no help at all from anyone else, even other women. The fact that I'm sorry, what's her character's name?
Helen.
Yeah, Helen. Even Helen, I was surprised that another woman was helping Veronica because it is fairly traditional not to help each other.
Oh, definitely.
You know, you see everyone as a rival, including the other women.
And I feel like that also gets portrayed heavily in media, movies, and television shows. Maybe not so much in modern stuff, but definitely in the past. Most of the time when you have more than one female character in any type of show or movie, most of the time they're adversarial. And
oh, yeah.
I've not, until recently, met many adversarial women in my life. Maybe I've been very lucky, but I've not had.
Or maybe they haven't been adversarial to your face.
And maybe
there
haven't.
is undermining.
I mean, I've had people in my life that were like, my ex-mother-in-law, very undermining. But in my workplace, I've never really fully noticed it. Yeah, people can be catty, but not to the point of what had recently happened for me. And that was a blow because I never expected it. I always thought it was a TV trope. I thought it was a movie trope. So to have that happen and not really, and I still don't know. I wish I could explain, y'all, but I can't. But I really don't even now fully understand why it happened. Like, I know why in the general, but I can't do that to somebody.
What was the motivator?
Exactly, because I could not do that to somebody. Can I fuck someone's life up if I feel that they're really doing something wrong? Yes. But
do you have the inclination to?
Just because I don't agree? No. They have to really fuck shit up before I will stand up and say, no.
I think people can pretty much count on my general laziness not to take an active role to fuck people up.
I mean, again,
if I do go to that lengths, I'm going to do it right. It's going to end the situation.
If I see, because again, I'm in charge of children. So if I see a child getting hurt, oh shit, yeah. And I have in the past. I have gone to my administration and said, I don't agree with this person and the way they treat these children. I don't agree with the way this person is behaving in the classroom with students. So
but you really have to overcome your laziness.
And it's not about being adversarial. It's about protecting the children that are in my care.
Yeah, no, that's a different situation.
Yeah. So again, the situation that I was in did not make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense. But yes, this is something to see those two characters together and talk. It did seem good, because again, that whole women against women, because, we're trying to fight for that top
position or the respect of the men.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this, when you see
I don't think
Helen react when she's going into the into the building and they catcall her and she tells them to grow up.
Yeah, grow up.
That is different than she reacted to the catcalling before.
Oh, yeah.
She is taking a more firm step against the men harassing her because Veronica has shown that she is willing to.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes that to see somebody else standing up for themselves, to have the strength to do it for yourself.
So, Anchorman is quite the movie. It is funny. Mm-hmm. It has, I think, a lot of insightful things built into it that I think upon first viewing you may overlook for the humor. But once you look past that and you see what they're aiming for, you can probably get a better appreciation for what it's trying to actually say.
I think, honest to God, it brought me joy. It brought me joy because it was as funny as I remembered. And it was actually, I knew when we were talking about, movies to put on our list of movies to watch, I wanted to talk about the journalism, the women getting into journalism, television. I wanted that. So I had that in the back of my head, but I forgot how good this movie really was. It was better than I remembered.
It is easy to forget how insightful it is.
It is very insightful.
And how telling it is of the changes that we have gone through in the last 40 years that have really positioned, I think now what's happening now to be a travesty.
Oh, yes.
So if you look at Anchorman as a sarcastic movie about what's happening now, it's easy to cry while you're laughing.
True.
But if you look at it, 10 years ago,
True.
it is inspirational in its portrayal of this woman who is, above all things, a human being. She is not portrayed as a saint. She is not portrayed as above men. She is portrayed as a real thinking, feeling,
very confident,
emoting human being. And it doesn't lose sight of the humanity despite all the humor that's involved in it and the obvious, like Luke Wilson getting his arms ripped off or someone dying with a trident. So it doesn't lose that humanity throughout the film. These are real people feeling real emotions, maybe not dealing with them well, maybe not dealing with them good at all.
Yeah.
But they're still real people within that scenario.
And the one moment where you totally realize how confident she is when she goes up to Harkin and she says, I can do 3 things very good. I can fight, I can screw, and I can do the news.
And I've already done two of them today.
No, I've already done one of them today. What do you... Yeah, I've got 2 left. What do you think I'm going to do? And he goes, screw. And she smacks him because that was the wrong answer of obvious reasons. But that is confidence.
Right.
That is just in your face confidence. I can do these 3 things. Fight, fuck, or give the news. What?
Damn straight. So with that in mind, and we had our ideas of whether or not this would pass the Castellini test.
Oh, yeah. I honestly didn't think so, but that was because I forgot about Catherine Harkness's character. But I didn't think she had any lines.
I didn't think so at first before we watched the movie, but as we started watching, I'm like, no, this is going to pass. Now let's see if it does.
Yeah, let's see
We're
if it
making
does.
a lot of supposition here. There have to be at least 2 named women characters with at least 5 lines of dialogue each.
And we have Veronica Corningstone and we have Helen.
That is pretty much it. That
is it, 2.
You've hit pretty much everything.
Well, there's Dorothy Mantooth, but she doesn't have any lines.
Right. Those characters must have a conversation, not necessarily with the other woman, either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not about the relationship.
So they are talking at that when they have lunch together or dinner or whatever, if they're eating at a restaurant. They aren't talking about their relationship. They're talking about revenge.
They're talking about revenge. They're talking about Ron. They're talking about a work issue.
Yes.
Not a relationship issue.
Exactly. Because their
this
relationship
is a
has already...
separate situation.
They've already broken up. They've been separated. This is about the work
She's
bullshit.
not bemoaning their relationship.
No.
They're talking about what to do about Ron, who has become a problem at work.
And that's, again, she doesn't cry about him. She doesn't cry about the situations that they put her in.
She's not happy about it.
No.
She is a human being.
She
has
human being.
feelings about it. But that is not what she's bringing to work with her.
No, and I'm not saying that if she did cry, it would be a bad thing. It was just refreshing to not see that.
Right. This wasn't about that. She can have regrets and not throw fits.
I am a person who
He
rarely
is
cries.
the emotional one. He
Yes.
is having... It's kind of, they've done like that gender role turnabout.
I like that as well.
Where they bend that role, and he is the one...
When Baxter gets kicked off the bridge, who's
Right.
an emotional wreck. Yes.
Right. So, but yeah, so we have that. And those 2 characters, Helen and Veronica, they have conversations about the issue and not about the relationship.
Yes.
So it passes on that one. At least one of the women has to be integral to the plot, meaning that if she were written out of the film, it could not reach the same ending.
Exactly. Veronica, if she was gone, there would be no story. I mean, it would just be a lot of outside vignettes.
It would be Ron
being stupid.
Without Veronica, there would be Ron in a slow decline throughout his career of alcohol abuse and womanizing, in which he never fully realizes his need to have someone at his side who is a motivating and moderating voice.
And then without that, influencing Brick and Champ and Brian, they would never have any growth either. So no, definitely
They would degrade.
They would degrade.
They were in an orbital degrade. So they were out in space, sure, revolving around, and it's always going to seem like that's going to be the same. It's always going to stay the same because we are fantastic, but they're slowly degrading in their orbit.
Yep.
And at some point, they're going to come crashing to Earth. And what we see here is that Veronica is the reason why they are able. Not only does she attain her goals, she helps them attain a greater station than they would have alone.
Oh, definitely. They were number one, but they could have very easily slipped, and she maintained the number one. And yeah, so
not just maintained, they got the world news.
They did get the world news.
They attained higher heights than they would have if they'd stayed the same and never met Veronica.
Yes.
So and they would have lost their jobs because of alcoholism, the changing workforce.
It would have been the cocaine. That would have been next.
Right.
So yeah, she was integral. She would have definitely ruined, taken her out. It
passes the Castellini test.
Yes, it does.
It is, and it's not surprising. Will Ferrell is, if anything, he is very much a feminist. Mm-hmm. He believes in equity. He believes in diversity. He believes in inclusion in a lot of these things that he does. Is he perfect? No, he's a human being.
Yes.
One of his greatest films that I think he's ever done has been Stranger Than Fiction.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite movies, and we definitely have to do that at some point.
Okay.
But he touches on those things in that film too, about equity and about inclusion, with the baker and stuff. And we'll talk about that during that film. But most of his works, they speak to those things.
Oh yeah.
I think he's very conscious of the films that he does, of what he portrays. He wouldn't do an Elf 2. He wouldn't do that because he felt that Elf was exactly what needed to be done.
Elf is my favorite Will Ferrell movie.
It was a good film.
Elf.
It was a good film.
So much.
I mean, yeah, there are problems within it.
Yeah,
but there's problems within every film. So it passes the Castellini.
We all can't be. We can't all have tremors. Tremors can't. It has basically now become the perfect movie. So.
It is kind of the guide for how I feel that older movies should attain for us to enjoy them now. It's strange, right?
Even now movies,
But it really gives me a lot of respect for Kevin Bacon.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I already love the guy.
Yeah.
I love that he also, just like Will Ferrell, would not do another movie, a sequel, because he just didn't feel it was up to snuff.
And that's integrity right there. You don't want to disappoint you don't want to do it just for the money. We all
and
need
you don't
the money.
Want to do it just to continue the story for the sake of continuing the story.
Unless you love, again, and I think every episode we either mention Tremors now or I mention Supernatural, but they kept the show going because they loved it. It wasn't a case of keeping the franchise going or making the money. Those guys love those characters.
Being reticent to step away from your character is a valid reason to keep going.
So that's different. But knowing that you're just doing it to keep the franchise going or for the money is definitely, with Kevin Bacon not wanting to do it. Those are justifiable reasons.
It's an art.
It's an art. Yeah. So I can't fault anybody for who wants to keep it going. Because again, Michael Gross, he is still doing Tremors.
Yeah, but I think he truly loves the material.
He loves the material. And he likes playing Bert. So yeah, and again.
And I'm interested to see the other Tremors now just so I can see how Bert has progressed.
I kind of am
Has he grown as a person? Has he devolved? I actually kind of want to know these things, so I may start picking up some more Tremor stuff just so I can see what's going on.
Yeah.
So, what's the hints for the next thing?
Okay. So, our next movie, I'm trying to not give this one away because this was hard to find hints for. The main actor, and I'm going to say actor because it's got, once again, a large cast, but the main actor took tap dancing lessons for 3 months for a scene that they shot in a half a day. My other clue is that the play that this movie is based on is the second longest running show on Broadway, and it is the first longest running revival because it was brought back in 1996, and it is the longest running revival play on Broadway.
Oh, don't you use your Google. You know you're going to do that.
You know you're going to do it.
Just guess.
If you want to watch Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, you can watch it on Paramount Plus, YouTube, Amazon Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, and Fandango. The rent is about $3.99. If you already have the streaming services, obviously, it's free.
So this has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment and subscribe, rate us on iTunes, and also do that on YouTube.
Well, until next time, friends.
Stay classy, San Diego.
Stay classy.
I mean, come on, Ed, it's bullcrap. Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchorman, not Anchor Lady, and that is a scientific fact, huh? I don't know what we're yelling about. You're with us, Ron. What do you think? It's terrible. She has beautiful eyes, and her hair smells like cinnamon. Mm-hmm.